Not every action that we create in our application has to work within our application. And what I mean by that is we can perform actions to send data to other applications on our device to perform them for us. And a great way to example this is by creating URL links. Now what we're going to do is have a button. Once we press our button, it's going to push a URL into our application or our device, which will load up Safari and then load up that web page. So it's a very simple way on how you can push data to other apps and load them up and do the work for you. So what we need to do this is simply drag and drop a button in. So I drag it in there and just space it out. And all we need is to create an action for it. So before we do, I'm just going to simply name this send me to URL. There we go. So we're going to bring up our assistant editor and make sure we selected our view controller.h and drag and drop our button in, making sure we selected an action. And I simply name this URL link. Nice and easy, and connect that up. Okay, so once we've done that, we're going to close our assistant editor, go back to our standard editor, and then jump into our view controller.m. So how we're going to get this to work is first we're going to get our application and then share our application basically, or share the data we're going to send to our device. And the smart thing about this is our device reads what data we're sending it to. And depending on what the type of it is, depends on what our application loads that data in. Now, as it's going to read it as a URL link, the only thing or the only application our device can open URL links in is Safari. So it'll load Safari up and then load that URL link in. So it's a pretty smart thing our device can do. So what we need to do is do our two brackets and basically get our application as a whole. We need to equal or space it and have it to our shared application, as that's how we're going to do it. We're going to share our data to our application, to our device. And after that we do space and we do open URL, and then within it we do bracket NSURL, as we now need to format our URL link, URL with string, and we do @ and 2 quotation marks. So in these 2 quotation marks will be the URL which we want to display in Safari. So we just close them two up first with our 2 brackets and then that with a semicolon. So we're going to keep it nice and simple. We're going to do HTTP colon here. And then we do our 2 forward slashes and we're going to simply load up www.apple.com. Nice and simple. So what's going to happen then, it's going to get our URL link here or our address here, and it's going to open a URL within our shared application to our application. Our device, which is a pretty smart thing for it to do, reads that link or that URL there and says, okay, so this is a URL string. So I'm going to push it to my applications and figure out which one can read it. And as it's a URL, only Safari can read these URL links. So it's going to load up Safari and then Safari is going to finish off the job and then send us straight to the Apple website. So if we go to build and run and test it out, and then once you press send me to URL, we press it, Safari jumps straight up, and just give it a second, depending on your internet connection, depends on how quick the website will load up. But as you can see there, it's loaded up straight to apple.com, which we set within our string here. Now, reasons why you would have URL links in your application is for you to share kind of information outside of your application which your users can't really reach within your app. Or mostly it's kind of seen in when you're playing a game and it pops up saying like, hoping you're enjoying this game, would you like to rate this game? Now, what you would do there is put in the URL link of your app on the App Store, and then you'll send your users over to your app on the App Store, which then they can basically rate your game. But if you want to take this one step further and basically not have your users directed away from your application to external websites, you can display URLs within web views within your application, where this means your users don't have to leave your app. They can have their own built-in web browser from within your application, which we talk about further on in the course. But anyway, when it loads up our URL, the brilliant thing with iOS 9 is it now has the ability to have a back button every time we've switched from an application to an external app. So when we're finished doing what we've done, we've seen the information which you've sent your users to look at, they can then press this button at the top, and it takes them straight back into the application from which they first was in. So again, we can press it, loads up apple.com within our web browser. When our users are finished, they can go back into our application and continue from where they last left off. So again, it's a brilliant way in how you can push data to your device and allow your device to read it and then push it to an application so you can display it all to your users.